Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex, and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today's Wildcard Sunday, where we look at things that are a little bit different from our regularly scheduled videos during the week and our regular reviews. So today I am looking at Rorschach #1, Before Watchmen. This was published in October 2012. Right off the bat, we're going to talk about Watchmen a little bit and the Alan Moore controversies surrounding the book. The main thing that I've been able to surmise here, and if I'm wrong, you guys let me know in the comments, is that basically Alan Moore made a deal and Dave Gibbons made a deal with DC at the time that when they were doing Watchmen, the rights would revert back to them once DC had finished publishing or doing print runs of the book, right? And proved to be a huge success, a huge hit. And DC, what they kind of have been doing since then, is continually reprinting Watchmen. So it's a perennial seller. They sell lots of them probably every year. Every time new, comic book readers get interested in American comic books, eventually, pretty quickly, you're probably going to find, Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns, that kind of stuff, right? Those are kind of the seminal books, at least in the superhero world, in the mainstream Marvel DC world. And Watchmen is definitely, like I said, a huge success that keeps being a cash cow for DC. And of course, unfortunately, by default, by still printing the books, they're kind of screwing Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons a bit, right? And Alan Moore's even gotten to the point, of taking his name and credit off anything Watchmen related, and even the money that he would be getting and generating from DC Comics, and as far as royalties and things like that. I think, I could be wrong on this again, but at last news I heard was basically just going to Dave Gibbons. So Dave Gibbons was getting kind of all of the royalty returns on Watchmen. So when DC announced this Before Watchmen concept, which basically is, a bunch of pretty high-end creators overall going back and doing stories set in the Watchmen world, there's 2 points of view on this. If you're with Alan Moore, which I kind of am, that's more my side, I'll be honest. This whole idea that he got screwed out of, the rights of Watchmen and that doesn't sit well to me as a creator. So if you're on that side, I remember when this whole concept of Before Watchmen was coming out, I said, I'm not going to buy it. I want Watchmen to be what I remember it to be by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, what it is. That's it. I don't want any extra stuff being thrown in there that might, ruin it or change my opinion of it or anything like that, right? That being said, I could totally understand the interest of creators who've grown up reading Watchmen, who've probably had ideas about stories set in the Watchmen world, and, getting the highest end creators, at least at that point in 2012, to do these Before Watchmen books obviously makes sense. And I'm pretty sure they were really good sellers at the time. But I was not going to be buying them, right? I was just, fine if you want to. I'm not going to stop anyone from buying a comic book, obviously. I'm not that invested in the whole concept. But for myself, I just figured I wouldn't go there, right? And somehow this issue came to me. I think it's a friend who gave it to me or something like that, or, some leftover in a stack somewhere, or maybe, it was like $1 or 75 cents in some sort of used bookstore. And I was like, oh, well, I'm pretty sure I didn't pay for it, right? So I'll at least throw that down. And it's the only one I've ever gotten, and it's the only one I've ever read. I didn't go any further with part 2, 3, and 4. But I will say, because I broke my rule, and I'm going to be honest, it's not a bad issue. And I'm wondering if the miniseries, the rest of it, is as good as this first issue. But, obviously it benefits from everything that we know about Rorschach from the original Watchmen series. But they did a pretty good job. The writer, Brian Azzarello, pretty solid guy as far as writing goes in at least the last 20, maybe 25 years. Always, the stuff I've read for him's been pretty darn good and entertaining, and I hear mostly good things about him. LEE Bermejo, I'm not quite sure how to say that. A lot of weird names in comics. His artistic pedigree is non-negotiable, I guess is how I'd put it. He's definitely an awesome artist, works in various mediums, as you can tell from this cover. So there's a little bit of pen and ink, a little bit of paint and color and stuff. And I don't know exactly what he's using as far as painting medium. I wouldn't even want to guess, because his stuff has a particular look, and I'm not quite sure what he's using. So I won't say anything on that, but some really stellar artwork in this one as well from the gentleman. Starting off with the cover, really great concept that we haven't seen before, but that just seems so obvious, since Rorschach's face is a Rorschach test that's constantly kind of moving around, but always symmetrical, right? Makes sense to then throw in a pattern that actually looks like Rorschach's silhouette. And it's funny, like I noticed it right away, but I know some people will look at this cover and it'll take a while before they figure out that it's, oh, this is like someone's, the actual character silhouette. So pretty clever cover, looks good, definitely catches your attention. And they definitely took that dressing kind of look, modernized what Watchmen was doing, but it's definitely the Watchmen aesthetic that they're using and abusing right here. Anyways, enough about the cover. Let's have a look inside. Can you believe this comic? Well, now comics are like, what, $15 or something? I don't know. I don't buy many modern comics, but $3.99 already seems, that's US, seems pretty hefty to me. I wonder what that would be Canadian at the time. Probably like almost $6. Yeah, they were trying to pull in the cash with these ones. Unfortunate that they throw ads in there right away. If you're going to do kind of a prestige format and, the covers are slightly thicker, kind of cardboard, and you're going to give it that, Watchmen thing. Here's one thing Watchmen didn't have is ads, right? I don't know about the original miniseries. I don't think they had ads. Maybe at the end or something, but because I do think they had a letter page. Correct me if I'm wrong on that in the comments, guys. But to throw an ad in here already kind of cheapens it to me. So we start off with kind of a Todd McFarlane thing, right? The extreme close-up. You're not exactly sure what you're looking at, and eventually, gets kind of nasty. That's a nice kind of zoom out of what's going on here, and someone seems to be cutting. You're going to assume it's flesh because there's blood, right? Cutting into someone's flesh with this scalpel here, and yeah, that's basically what's going on here. And that's our first glimpse of our killer, right? The antagonist. I assume throughout the miniseries, like I said, I'm just reviewing issue 1. I haven't read any of the other ones. So it says, can't help myself, but I don't need to. I can't help myself, but neither can you. Okay. But again, assuming throughout the series, we would find out exactly what he means by that. So Brian Azzarello, writer, Lee Bermejo, artist, Barbara Chiardo, colorist. Oh, okay, so he's not actually doing the colors in here. So I would be interested to see, the what he handed in before the colors. I would definitely be interested in seeing that, because is it probably like, gray wash and stuff? Quite possibly. That's what it would look like if you pull out the color. I feel like he's probably using washes. I'd love to know though. Rob Lay's the letterer, and Lee Bermejo is the cover artist. These other guys, there's variant covers, of course there are. Oh, they're still crediting Alan Moore. Watchmen created by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. So is it just on movie stuff that he's taken his name off, or is it they still insist on crediting him in the comics? If anyone knows, let me know. Nice shot of the city here. I have to assume that's just a digitally manipulated picture. That's definitely what I feel like it is. A shot in New York. Maybe drawn over a little bit, I feel like, in some instances, but because of the way the colors and the pen and ink art kind of mesh together, it's hard to tell. This could be ink work over buildings, or just like a second, third generation kind of photocopy where the quality gets a bit worse and a bit like blurrier, I guess, just slightly, not too much. And again, this can all be done digitally, right? I'm referencing analog ways of doing this stuff before digital, but digital obviously tries to recreate analog. So right away we get a sense that Lee Bermejo has looked at the settings of Watchmen, because they're pretty familiar. I think all these places we've seen in the original miniseries, the movie theater, the porn theater, I think. I mean, there's some porn theater there. Obviously trying to recreate the vibe of Times Square in the 1970s, early 80s, right? That's where it was set. It was set in New York, Watchmen. But yeah, just beautiful artwork, I mean, if not all of it, some of it has to be photo referenced, right? I don't feel like it's photo referenced everywhere. But in certain instances, the backgrounds and stuff, the cars, but he's really good at doing the cars. There's some car shots later that I'm going to gush over. Pretty dark kind of story, right? We got our character here with his pants down and shooting up heroin. So he's jerking off and shooting up heroin. I guess that's a thing while watching some porn, right? This idea for me of just stalls. I've been to Amsterdam. We did the sex show thing, but, I did it once. And just the idea of, I'll just throw that out there, jizz all over the walls and stuff. I know there's a guy who cleans it, but that just grosses me out. And none of that was going to be happening with me for sure. Not in that kind of environment. Yeah, so nothing against it. if any partakers out there, you know, to each his own, but yeah, just not my thing. And of course, where do you not want to get interrupted but when you're shooting up smack and masturbating? And that's where Rorschach comes in. I'm trying to, because famously Rorschach is a fairly short guy and he wears lifts, right? So I'm kind of throughout the book trying to see if there's clues to him having, like, he's already got the higher heel, which, you know, that probably gives him an inch and a half more. And the lifts are on the inside of the shoe, right? So I'm just kind of looking for hints of as I'm going through the book, things that were already kind of set in the Watchmen book, the original 12 issue series. And there are some things, right, for sure. I think he's got most of, maybe it's a little more like almost like rated R than the Watchmen series, but I do like his lines that he gives Rorschach. First of all, this shot here of Rorschach, you know, worm's eye view looking up at him obviously helps to make him more imposing than he actually is. As we talked about, he's a fairly smaller guy in stature, and that'll be referenced later too. But bitch to be you right now. Dwayne Carter, street hustler, fake gold chains, 2 paper joints, serious smack. Right, because he's doing the heroin. Say what, clown? And then smack. So kind of playing on that Alan Moore kind of stuff where Rorschach, everything he said kind of had double meanings, right? So he's like, I'm serious. Tell me where the shit is. So he's looking for some drugs, I guess. I get the you know, the source of the heroin. And this guy tells him it's in the sewer. I like this sequence here, the shot where, you know, Rorschach is literally on his back here. And you can see, like, proportion-wise, he's not necessarily, he doesn't draw him to be the hugest guy, right? This is more kind of a POV shot if you were standing there and you'd be like, he's not so big, right? I kind of like, but, you know, he's pretty violent, right? He's quick to violence, I'll put it that way. So off he goes into the sewers. Oh, this sequence too. Can you feel your hand? Where is it? Where it is? Touching my ass? If it turns out you've lied to me, I'll be back. Shove it up it. So that little bit of speech pattern, that weird speech pattern that Rorschach has. Beautiful coloring here. I mean, beautiful shadow work and silhouette work. All the fold, man, that's really hard to do and make look convincing. Bermejo always has kind of a interesting, slightly angular way of doing costumes and clothing folds and stuff that I really like, that really works for me. Yeah, just look at that beautiful coloring back here. This is, to me, you know, with the vibe of the comic and stuff, these 2 pages, the contrast, the reds and magentas and stuff for the porn theater, and, you know, the cooler kind of greens and blues here for the sewers really works well. This is, you know, reined in digital colors or you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Tastefully applied. It's almost like a painterly fashion. And recreating kind of that angular kind of stuff that Bermejo does, because I don't know if he's actually drawn this. I'd love to see those original pencils, or even inked pages rather. So comes up on a bunch of thugs here who've left just the shotgun sitting on the side. So this is just the silhouette indicating that he's picked it up. So again, is that a wash? Is that Bermejo doing it? I would think so. I don't think you'd leave something like this up to the colorist, right? So, you know, not quite ready yet to use the shotgun on these guys to kill them by shooting them. So just smacking them around with the butt end. And these are the shots that I feel like almost come from photo reference from movie stills and stuff. He's probably combining different pictures and shots, but like this one here, I feel is, you know, well, again, almost looks like a guy who's playing baseball to me. Almost like the photo reference for this is a baseball player. And just as he reaches the mother lode, gets smacked in the face by this guy, who I think his name is the mother lode. Oh, sorry, we just see his... okay, so I'm confused. One of these thugs' fists, and then the mother lode is going to come out, who's kind of their gang leader. Interesting kind of storytelling in the way that Bermejo, you know, still fairly kind of controlled and stable, and he's still kind of in the fight, but as soon as, you know, things start not going his way, the panels start shifting and stuff, and there's a bit of a disorderly, chaotic feel. And then, boom, here, with this one, he kind of comes back a little bit with this because, you know, Rorschach's had the opportunity to grab the gun, and it seems like at this point he's like, you know, fuck it, I'm going to shoot these guys. And, of course, no bullets in there. Ain't that always the way? Some interesting kind of Rorschach tests, too, sometimes, like this. I don't know if we ever saw Dave Gibbons do this kind of thing, so he's trying different things, I feel like. Very cool to keep these upside down, just like his point of view. I think that's a good move. Obviously, they were probably drawn right side up and just flipped digitally. So he says, crime fighter, right? That's what you are. Well, it's nice to finally meet you. I'm crime. So it feels like Azzarello is trying to create Alan Moore-like characters, right? Memorable in weird and interesting ways, maybe in the way they speak, right? And this is definitely an example of that. Bird, big cool. Rorschach, for some reason I thought, dude, you don't measure up to your myth. So I feel like what he was going to say here is I thought you'd be taller, right? And I think that's maybe taken... Someone in the original Watchmen series, I think, says that at some point, right? Maybe one of the cops who arrest him or something. I don't remember exactly who. Maybe I'm not remembering this right, but I feel like that happened. And then here, of course, it hints at that, but he doesn't actually come out and say it, and we understand what he's going for. So I think that's a clever little thing by the writer there. Let's not, directly reference it and copy it and say it again, just like Watchmen, but like allude to it and put it in the person's mind. And if you've read Watchmen, that's probably the first thing you would hear, right? Knowing, again, that Rorschach has lifts, and he's a smaller statured guy. Ugh, more ads. Just horrible. There's moments where I feel like some of the Rorschach, this is maybe a little bit too on the nose, where he looks like he is angry, I guess, right? Having been caught and stuff. This guy starts to pull off his mask, and of course, conveniently, no, Lucky Pierre, you know what's under that mask? Nothing that matters. I kind of like his reasoning, but because he thinks he's going to kill him anyways, and of course, it's a comic book, so he's not going to die. But yeah, there's just very convenient. That's kind of a weak part in writing, I think, for this book. We get a nice up-close shot of this guy's face, so we're not quite sure in this first issue. It's not mentioned what exactly is going on there. He's been burned by acid, or he's got lesions and infections and stuff. We're not quite sure. It's a disgusting texture. The colorist does a good job of, Freddy Cougarizing it, I guess. So they wanted to make the mask a corpse, is what he says. So again, the panels get very chaotic. Good storytelling. Just all these thugs kicking the crap out of Rorschach. And then we meet two other familiar characters, right? These two guys here, the cops from the very beginning of the first issue of Watchmen, right? Yeah, they're the first guys we kind of encounter. They're investigating the comedian's apartment, right? Not knowing that he's the comedian, of course. So it was kind of fun to see them again. They seem pretty much in character. They're investigating these murders by the guy that we saw at the beginning. He's called the Bard. It was mentioned in a newspaper somewhere. I guess because he's writing like lyrics and songs on people, I guess is the concept. Yeah, it's the Bard. So they found another body, right? And here, yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's no way this is not photo referenced. And to what level that he's drawn on top of pictures or light boxing them or actually using the actual pictures, I'm not quite sure. I will say this, because I'm not quite sure. He's a talented artist, and I think the cars look damn great. Really, really good. And they're all pretty much period accurate to 1977. I say pretty much, I mean, they are. These are all 70s kind of type vehicles. Very cool. You can almost like, I think this is some sort of Cadillac. You've got the Plymouth back here. I think maybe this is a Maverick or a Pinto or something. If you know a little bit about cars, you can, and 70s cars, 60s, 70s cars, the best kind of years, at least aesthetically, I think, for cars are interestingly aesthetic. Let me try that again. Interesting aesthetics for cars. 60s are great. 70s, probably more interesting. Great shot there. And the reflections and stuff, really well done. And I couldn't help but think of the Ninja Turtles here. But yeah, no, it's Rorschach who's coming out. I guess he wasn't killed. Again, kind of convenient. You would think that, if this guy is the head honcho and those guys have been given a mission to kill Rorschach, you think they would make sure he was dead, but apparently not. Convenience of the story, right? So what we see here is kind of interesting and in character, I think, even though not directly from the Watchmen miniseries. Rorschach breaking into a pharmacy here to get some, I'm going to assume, painkillers or maybe some, what am I looking for? Antibacterials, right? Something. But definitely painkillers. We're living in this jungle surrounded by wild savages, she says. And then you know, as if in that Alamo way to confirm what she's saying. Rorschach comes in. We know he's not Rorschach here, right? He doesn't have his mask on. What is his name again? I can't, for the life of me, it's not coming to me right now. But yeah, so that kind of confirms what she's been saying about the world. This, I'm going to assume, is there it is, the Gunga Diner from Watchmen, of course. And this, you know, because we've read Watchmen, we know that this is Rorschach. Again, I forget his name. Even Night Owl calls him Rorschach, right? And I mean, other than that, you know, just kind of a threatening little thing at the end that seems a little bit out of character, I'll say, for Rorschach, just because it would tend to maybe reveal more of his identity, where at this point, maybe in 1977, he's not walking around with a sign yet, right? And the end is nigh, and kind of, you know, seems just like a crazy guy in the streets. He says the muggers, they made a mistake. Meaning you didn't have anything on you? No. Meaning I'm not dead. So very Rorschach thing to say, but why would you say that to the waitress? So that's the point where I thought it was a little bit out of character from what I think Rorschach would actually do from the Watchmen series. Maybe a little more strategic. Here's the thing too. There's the whole Kitty Genovese kind of subplot in Watchmen, where that's kind of the moment where Rorschach, his mind kind of really for lack of a better word, like torqued, or just kind of disjuncted a little bit. Is that a word? Where he went a little bit crazy, finding the young girl's clothing inside a furnace, right? And figuring out that the guy had, you know, done some horrible things to the girl and then killed her, right? And fed her to his dogs. That's the idea in the Watchmen series. So that's where Rorschach kind of turns and becomes dark. So I don't know if this is before or after that. Night Owl always says he was already a little bit off, right? But that kind of put him over the edge in the Watchmen series. So yeah, that's where it stands for this one. I was surprised to see that they've worked in these 2 pages relating to that whole pirate story that was going on in Watchmen. I did read the whole pirate sequence in Watchmen. I get its correlation and relation to the main story and all of that. But on, you know, the first time I read it as a kid, I read the whole thing. Subsequent readings, which I go back to Watchmen every once in a while, I skip most of the pirate stuff. Sometimes I read it, sometimes I don't, right? It's just one of those things that, you know, once you know, you don't really have to go retread it to really appreciate the book, at least for me. And so seeing this stuff here and all this text, was just not interested at all in reading that. Interesting kind of snapshot, I guess, of where DC was at the time. Publishing black and white art in 2012 is kind of surprising and a bold move, but I guess it's a way of previewing stuff without the full glory of it that you're supposedly going to get when you buy the comic. Not quite sure what the thought process is here, but it is nice to, you know, be able to look closely, more closely at some of this art. Pretty solid stuff overall. I don't like the DC house style at this time was still fairly exciting, I think, and that's 13 years ago. It's kind of changed a lot since then. And these, of course, the other before Watchmen books that were being put out: Night Owl, Ozymandias, Rorschach, obviously we know that, Dr. Manhattan, and the Minutemen. And then again, just throwing an ad like this, it's just, yeah, it's not what I want to see in a Watchmen book. Neither is this on the back cover. Wow. Well, there you go, guys. That is my review of Before Watchmen issue 1. If you're still watching and you're still subscribed, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your support. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second. It really helps us here at the channel, helps us grow, helps get us to our goal of 500, where YouTube officially recognizes us as a channel and starts helping us out a little bit and spreading the word about Big Baby reviews out there all over the internet. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Have yourselves an awesome day.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.